Implementing appropriate stress management tools into your day-to-day lifestyle while you're in the process of quitting smoking weed or quitting alcohol or quitting vaping, or after you've quit is vital, because I've seen it time and time again where people will stop consuming a substance, a stressful event naturally arises, and then they choose to return to consuming that substance again because they can't handle the stress. So in today's video, what I'm going to do for you is provide you with 5 simple steps that anyone can implement right now, starting today, to help you better manage stress during your process of quitting smoking weed, or if you've already quit, going forward, maintaining abstinence from the substance. Now, you can really apply this to any drug. It could be alcohol, weed, nicotine, it doesn't matter. And these are the same techniques and tips that I share with people who work with me privately one-on-one when it comes to overcoming substance use disorders. Just like this individual here who has a family of 3 children, runs a monster business, and has successfully quit drinking alcohol now for over the last 2 months with ease. Or like this individual here who's a PhD, who has all types of deadlines due for their papers and things like that, and has successfully not consumed cannabis for a brief period of time, but a period of time now since working with us one-on-one. So the tips that I'm going to share with you, I promise you they work, so please utilize them. I make today's video after coming off of a particularly prolonged period of stress. Me and my wife were due to have our second child around December 7th, and that child was born November 17th. So she was born pretty early. And both my wife and the child had some complications following delivery. We were in and out of hospitals. And I'll tell you, it's just been a particularly stressful week, right? We have a toddler at home. I have 3 businesses that I run: a coaching business, a supplement company, and a chiropractic office. And, having a baby a month early it's stressful. It's stressful. There's no way around it. For as a beautiful, joyful thing it is, it's also a stressful thing. And I'm going to share with you guys exactly what I did to manage that stress during this time period, okay? Now, if you wind up enjoying today's video, we have a science-backed method that has a 98% client success rate at helping people quit nicotine, cannabis, and other substances in as little as 48 hours. We can do this privately without disrupting your public life and image and without relapse. This method is designed specifically for high-level professionals and high-performance individuals. I put a link in the video description in the pinned comment for you. So tip number 1 would be to devalue the substance. You want to take away the perception of stress relief that you've associated with that substance use consumption. And if you don't do this, none of the other tips I'm going to give you are going to be effective. So a lot of people will smoke weed or drink alcohol or vape nicotine, and it changes how that individual feels physically. Now, what happens is people associate that physical change in sensation with the perception of stress relief, with the perception of anxiety relief. And what happens is when we associate that physical change in sensation with something as powerful as stress relief or anxiety relief, you're making that drug way more powerful than it actually is. You're giving it a superpower that it doesn't actually have. But here's the thing. If you go into quitting cannabis, or you've already quit, and you feel that cannabis or alcohol or nicotine helps you manage stress, and you're still thinking that, what's going to happen is you're going to quit, a stressful event's going to come up, you're going to use willpower and say, oh my gosh, if only I had nicotine, if only I had weed, if only I had alcohol, I could relieve my stress. And now that sensation of deprivation, you feeling like you're depriving yourself of something that's giving you value, is only going to add to the stress until you hit a breaking point and you choose to return to consuming that substance again. So step 1 to managing stress, if you've already quit weed or if you're in the process of quitting weed, is devaluing that drug and your perception of benefit of stress relief as much as possible. And this is a lot what we do with people inside our one-on-one coaching, and that's why we have such astronomically high success rates working with people. We do this in as little as 48 hours. Again, I put that link in the video description in the pinned comment. High-level professionals, executives, that's predominantly who we work with. Step number 2, after you've devalued the drug, is trying to acknowledge that your life is actually less stressful without the use of substances. Let's say I'd gone through this stressful period of time where my wife had complications, the baby had complications. We haven't slept in over probably a week and a half now, to be honest. And let's say that I was consuming drugs during this time to help me manage stress. What would eventually happen is the baby's healthy, my wife is healthy, sleep is going to eventually normalize. It might take a little bit with a newborn, but it will eventually normalize. And all that would occur is all those problems would have resolved. But now if I was using drugs again, I would be left with the additional stress of continued substance use, the strain that it puts on my finances, my relationships, my work ethic, my physical health, and my mental health. So it helps to acknowledge that life is actually a heck of a lot less stressful when you're not consuming drugs. I don't think anyone would argue with me that quitting drugs can lead to improved relationships, better career and work performance. It certainly can result in having more money in your bank account, and it can certainly result in stronger mental health and physical health, right? Quitting smoking, quitting drinking, it's a good thing for your health. No one can argue against that. And the reality is, when you're healthy, when you have the energy and the time to put into your work, when your relationships are in a good space, when you're taking care of yourself, when you're not dealing with all the side effects and consequences of continued substance use consumption, your stress tolerance for other things, other stressful events that are going to come up in life, naturally starts to go up. So I have an extraordinarily high stress tolerance for things because I'm not using drugs, because my relationships are in a good spot, my finances are in a good spot, my physical health and my mental health is in a good spot. So when something comes up, having a baby a month early and there's medical complications, my tolerance to handle that stress is significantly higher because I'm not trying to handle that and the consequences and resulting things that happen with continued substance use or problematic substance use. So just by not consuming drugs and getting a better night's sleep, just by not consuming drugs and having more time on my hands, just by not consuming drugs and having significantly more mental clarity, my stress tolerance for other aspects of my life is significantly higher. Now, I've recognized that since not consuming drugs for a long period of time, and that simply reinforces the idea that consuming cannabis, drinking alcohol, smoking nicotine, it has no ability to give me stress relief. In fact, it only adds to it. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, Dr. Frank, no, that's not true. When I smoke a cigarette or when I smoke weed, I definitely feel stress relief. What is that? It's the physical change in your body that you've associated with stress relief. And the only stress that it's relieving is the stress that it's created. Alan Carr was really one of the first to shed light on this. But let's say you're addicted to weed and you smoke weed and then you have a 2-3 hour gap in between smoking sessions. And then some time goes by and you start to get irritable. You start to get cravings. You start to get anxious, right? And then you smoke again and you're like, oh, but I feel so much stress relief. The only stress relief you're getting is the stress that was created by the craving itself from consuming that substance in the first place. It's a delusion that substance use creates that you have to start to see past. Now, tip number 3 would be starting to view stress differently. They've actually done studies on this, and they've looked at people who don't view stress as a negative thing, and these individuals have longer lifespans. When I face a challenging situation, which for me, quitting substances was a challenging situation, especially in the beginning when I was experiencing psychosis, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, and other extreme withdrawal symptoms, it was stressful to get through that. But the experience of quitting drugs has made me a significantly stronger, more confident, and more disciplined individual. I feel significantly better prepared for whatever life throws at me because of the experience, the profound experience that quitting substances taught me. So now when stressful events comes up, although I may feel temporarily depressed and anxious and frustrated and stressed, I see those moments as opportunities to develop growth if I can get through this, what are the attributes that I'm going to walk away from this experience with if I can get through it appropriately? So I've taken stressful experiences and I've viewed them as opportunities for growth, opportunities to sharpen and enhance my problem solving skills, skills that I can then pass on to my relationships, that I can pass on to my businesses. I can apply them to almost any aspect of my life. So how you view stress, whether you view it as a net positive or a net negative thing, is also going to play a huge factor in this. I think I saw it on a Jocko podcast or something, but he said, when something bad happens, what do you say to yourself? And he said, I say, good. When it was a Monday morning and I was just starting coaching calls with my clients, and I heard my wife downstairs on the phone and she was telling the doctor she was bleeding. She had random bleeding that was unexpected. And I heard it out of the background of my headphones. I just said to myself, okay, good. It's go time. It's time for me to get in gear. It's time for me to help my family. It's time for me to do what ought to be done. Good. I'm glad that this challenge has presented itself. Even though I didn't completely feel that way, it does help how you talk to yourself about stressful events. Next time something bad happens, what if instead of saying, oh crap, and trying to run from it and hide, you just said to yourself, good, what do I need to do next? Tip number 4 when it comes to mitigating stress is to plan ahead. In light of having another child, and I'm going to throw a big caveat into this, I had planned ahead. We have a nanny that helps out during the daytime. I had worked with a night nanny in the past, so we contacted them. We had family contacted to help us out during the day with our children. We're very fortunate that we have these resources and these things, but I started to plan ahead. I signed up for Instacart. I ordered a bunch of stuff on Amazon so I didn't have to drive to the stores and stand in line. I didn't have to worry about food delivery. We had a cleaning lady hired to clean up the house because we had to run out of the house last minute on a Monday morning, not knowing if we were going to come home. And we didn't come home until 5 days later, leaving the hospital after the child was born. But if you can plan ahead and you can start to predict where are the areas of my life I'm going to need help in if X, Y, and Z goes wrong or something comes up, you can significantly reduce your stress. So we came home from the hospital to a full fridge of food, the house was cleaned, family was over, and we had people aligned to help us out throughout this process, especially the fact that my wife is a working professional, I'm a working professional. We knew that we needed the help, and we were able to use our resources to acquire that help. Planning ahead, even if it's something as simple as prepping your meals, laying out your clothes the night before, goes a very, very long way. The more you can set yourself up for success, the less stress you're going to experience. Cannabis, alcohol, a lot of these things are very much drugs of procrastination, rumination, and they damage people's ability to use that front sight focus and plan ahead. So just by planning ahead, even the simplest of things, you are going to get way ahead of stress. Now, tip number 5 is actually a lot simpler, and it has to do with what do I do to actually manage stress? And yes, deep breathing techniques are great. Self-hypnosis is great. Prayer can be great. There's all these things that you've seen online. But for me, I have a series of things I do. I like to clean when I'm stressed. I like to put on music and I like to clean. I use these products called therapy clean products. They're awesome. They're essential oil based. They have nice scents to them, essential oil based. Great. So I like cleaning. I like reading. It's a great way for me to decompress, reading books. Number 1, I like walking. I have a walking pad right over here in my office. We have sidewalks in our neighborhood. We can walk outside, even though it's winter and it's getting colder out now. But walking is huge for me. I like talking. I like talking to family. I like talking to friends. I like talking through my problems when I have a problem. And this is something that our one-on-one coaching clients keep telling us all the time. And again, if you're struggling with substance use, we have a science-backed method that has a 98% client success rate at helping people quit in 48 hours or less. We can do this privately without you having to go put your public display of your substance use out there for the whole world to hear about. And we can do this without relapse. Again, this method is designed specifically for high-level professionals, business owners, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, okay? I put a link in the video description in the pinned comment where you can learn more. But talking is one of the number 1 things. Just having someone to talk your problems through with is invaluable if you're speaking to the right person. I also use work as a way to manage stress. I actually happen to very much enjoy what I do for work. So, working, whether it's in your career or perhaps a side hustle that you have interest in, is another way that you may be appropriately able to manage stress. And then, lastly, I use simple distractions. So, reading for me is a distraction, it's a way for my brain to decompress. The same way that smoking weed or drinking alcohol or vaping nicotine used to be a distraction. I will also use YouTube as a distraction. When we came home after the hospital that night, I was so beyond overwhelmed. No one had slept. Baby's crying, wife is crying, toddler's crying. I'm on, 2 hours of sleep for the whole week. And I just couldn't handle anything anymore. So what did I do? I went on YouTube. I watched a series of camping and hunting videos. I watched some videos about, I do target shooting for a hobby. So I watched some videos about some new rifle reviews. I'm looking at getting a lever action rifle for target practice. And I did that for like 2 hours. After decompressing doing that, then I just got back to doing the things that needed to be done. Help with the baby, wash the bottles, respond to some voice notes for some clients, etc., etc. Simply distracting yourself with another activity that's not substance use based, an activity that is not going to have negative repercussions for a brief period of time, sometimes is all people need to then later on reassess that stressful event and come up with a plan to attack it. At the end of the day, the only way to truly manage stress is to acknowledge the things that are stressing you out and put a plan in place to address those things. That is the only way to move past stress. That's the only way to truly cope with stress. Yes, deep breathing, meditation, distracting yourself, reading, doing all these other things is great. But at the end of the day, what's the thing that's stressing you out and what needs to be done to address it? And what's a realistic timeline that you're going to achieve stress relief in doing so? These are things that we help people with. Again, I put a link in the video description in the pinned comment where you can learn more. If that doesn't appeal to you, follow me right into the next video where I talk a little bit more about managing stress and how quitting substances can help.